Good afternoon, delegates, and welcome to our third and final live stream of 2021 CONA. My name is Riley Potter from the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And I'm Lindsay Powers from Kentucky.
And we are so excited to be back with you to share some of media's hard work these past couple of days. If any of you have any questions for us, whether that be about media, CONA, or anything else, put them in the YouTube chat and we'll be answering them at the end.
We have a busy schedule today. We will start by listening about a new culture. We will say goodbye to our seniors one last time with our senior farewell segment. After that, we will listen in on an interesting proposal about the media. Of course, we can't forget about our Love Knows No Limit segment. And finally, we will bring back all of our previous hosts to answer some Q&A.
Sounds like we got a lot to cover, so let's get started.
For our first segment, we are going over to Cynthia Aturu of Oklahoma, where she interviewed Fiona Canali, also from Oklahoma, to talk about the history of Irish immigrants living as a minority in the United States. This sounds very interesting, so go for it, Cynthia.
Hello everyone, my name is Cynthia Aturu, and today we'll be discussing the history of Irish American immigrants living as minorities in the United States. Joining us today, we have Fiona Canali.
Hi, my name is Fiona, and today I will be talking about my big Irish family. I'm about 80% Irish, and I'll be talking about what some Irish immigrants went through coming here.
Nice. Okay, so my first question for you is when and why did your family first migrate to the United States?
Yeah, so my dad's family came here in the late 1880s because of the potato famine. They were from County Kerry, and my mom's family came here in the late 1950s just because they were also struggling in Ireland and wanted a new life.
Gotcha. So adding on to the same question, what were some of the struggles that your family and other Irish immigrants faced?
Yeah, so my family was first, whenever my mom's side first came here, my great-grandparents both passed away. My papa was immediately put into the Irish Catholic adoption cycle, and then Irish people were seen as, derogatory and seen as drunks, and so they were often not given, the jobs that they maybe had in Ireland. They were given low-income jobs. Irish women were also often servants, and Irish men were often coal miners or railroad workers.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And I wanted to ask you, what are some of the traditions that you and your family still practice and ones that you particularly really like?
Yeah, so some of the traditions that my family still has is we belong to an Irish Catholic church. Another huge one is food. We love food. Personal favorite is Irish soda bread, which came from my grandma. She always made it whenever I was growing up. My mom still makes it. And another favorite is beef stew. And my mom still practices Celtic/Irish traditional medicine and spirituality.
Got it? That's very cool. Lastly, before we conclude, I would like to ask you about your favorite phrase that you told me earlier, and if you'd be okay with sharing that with our audience.
Yeah, so my favorite phrase that I heard from my family growing up is in Gaelic, and it is Níl son gonloctic, and it means the wise man has flaw. And it pretty much means that the wise men and the wise women and the wise whoever still have their flaws in life.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
It really was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Oh my, I thought that was so interesting. I actually have like a similar story. My great grandparents actually immigrated to the United States from Italy, so I'm half Italian. They came here in like the 1920s, so kind of sandwiched between Fiona's family. They didn't speak a word of English, so it was definitely difficult for them to acclimate to the American culture. But I'm very thankful that they did. What about you, Lindsay?
I have a lot of family from Germany that came in the early 1900s, so I'm probably more like 75% German.
Very cool. So thank you so much, Cynthia, for putting that video together and letting us learn a little bit more about different cultures. Now we will move on to the senior farewells segment. As a senior myself, I understand what some of the other seniors may be feeling. So media really wanted to shine a spotlight on all of them. So we asked all of our seniors to send in small clips of them saying one word that describes how they're feeling about CONA. So take it away, seniors.
CONA makes me feel passionate,
hopeful,
loved,
empowered,
inspired,
enlightened,
excited,
family,
community,
home.
Thank you so much, seniors, and we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. I don't know about you, Riley, but proposals about media are always very interesting. Hopefully others agree, because in our next segment, we will watch as Sean Ferris of the Commonwealth of Virginia talks to Madeline Canada of Michigan about her proposal related to media sources. Let's see what they got to say.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Ferris from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and today I have Madeline Canada with me. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Madeline Canada. I'm from the Michigan delegation.
Awesome. Would you mind explaining your proposal?
So my proposal is basically to create a national shield law for journalists, which basically means that except for the case of a court subpoena, they do not have to reveal their sources or other unpublished information that could expose a confidential source.
Right. So do you have any stories or scenarios that you've heard through your research of this happening to journalists?
Yes. Specifically, there from 1950 to 2006, 27 journalists have been jailed for refusing to give up sources. Wow. 29 have been fined, and 9 have been jailed and fined. And I just think that journalists being able to protect their sources is something that is incredibly important to American democracy, because whistleblowers are important just to kind of keep government transparency, like in the case of Watergate scandal with Mark Felt and Daniel Ellsberg with the Pentagon Papers.
Is it usually the government who are the ones that are forcing journalists to divulge their sources?
Yes, it is. It's usually pressure on from the government, or from if there's an expose on a company, usually it's company or the government, whoever the expose, or it's most common with investigative journalism. Yeah.
Since this proposal's already been debated on NGA, what were some of the con statements that people gave?
One of the biggest cons I got and was anticipating was, how are we able to guarantee that the information is true if it comes from an anonymous source? But of course, journalists have to go through this big, long process before they can publish anything. And my proposal mainly focuses on not necessarily anonymous sources, but rather sources that are granted anonymity, which means that the journalist knows the identity of the source. They just do not publish it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When I was reading through your proposal, I imagine that would be a con that people would give, but the journalistic integrity and the editing process goes through a lot of different levels. So I doubt that would be too common of an issue.
And yeah, but I definitely think that it's a good question to ask too, and a good point to raise, because fake news is such a huge problem in America and all around the world, but it's just not something that really causes issue in my proposal.
Yeah. Your proposal also said, in a sort of exemption area, the government could get the names of these sources through a significant legal issue coming from it.
Yes.
Issues?
If court judge decides that the information or the identity of the source is incredibly relevant to a significant legal issue, likely criminal, they can do a subpoena. And if my proposal, theoretically in legislation, legislators would likely go into more detail about what they think would warrant a subpoena. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that, but I assumed it already had some legal jargon with it like that. All right, thank you for talking to me about it. I was really interested in it.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, Lindsay, I would have to agree with you. Media proposals are always very interesting to media delegates, especially, and this one was no exception. So thank you, Madeline and Sean, for letting us learn a little bit more. As we keep moving along, one segment at a time, I am so excited to share our final installment of Love Knows No Limits. This has been a conference long piece that the media team has been working hard on, and I hope that our audience has learned more about the LGBTQ plus community. In this segment, we will listen to two more personal stories and then show some pictures of Pride events that took place across the country. We will begin with none other than Kemper Cole of Delaware with Sasha Shishoff of Maryland.
Hi, my name is Sasha Shishoff, and I'm here with Kemper Cole from the Delaware delegation, and he has so graciously offered to share his experience with being gay and Pride in general. So Kemper, if you could tell me a little bit about your basic identity.
Honestly, like it's really hard to explain, and I know that's kind of like a cliche, but I've never known like what label to like put on my sexuality or like anything of that sort. I generally just refer to myself as gay, but like, what does that really mean? Like, how does that apply to me? That's all things I've never really known. My general like MO is just I like who I like, and it's none of people's business usually. So
That's what Mason just said earlier. That's really sweet. And general like experiences with your sexuality, positive, negative, in between, neutral.
So it's been back and forth as far as that goes. I've always been, I don't know how to describe it. Well, I've always been like a very like deeply reflective person. And so it has like just like in the past like hit me really hard, like having to be closeted and having to express all of these feelings that I have. And I go, well, for context, I live in like Southern Delaware, which is like significantly more conservative socially. And I go to a charter school that's very conservative. So this is not something I've ever been able to express like in this last until like recently. But I think like the biggest like things that like stand out to me is when people would never even like ask me about my sexuality. They would just assume that, you know, I was gay just because like different mannerisms I had or different ways that I expressed myself. And I was like absolutely not open at the time. And I think for the most part, I was like relatively sing, but people were so ruthless about my identity, and I never understood why people cared so much. And you know, then as like I started getting older, I got into youth and government, and I mean, this place has really been like a home for me because like in like Sussex County, Delaware, where I'm from, uh, you know, there's not really a place for me. I've, you know, a few friends that have like a shared identity with me, but other than that, like all of the friends that I can actually relate to are people from youth and government and from CONA. And since like I've really focused most of my life onto those two programs, it's been significantly easier for me to like be open and be myself and like finally like accept like who I am and whatnot. So
I'm really glad that you have a place in CONA. That's really wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. It's always wonderful to talk to you.
As always, thank you, Kemper, for sharing your story and always helping the media out. For our next video, we will send it over to Sean Ferris from the Commonwealth of Virginia to talk to Summer Neal, also from the Commonwealth of Virginia, as she shares her personal experiences. Over to you, Sean.
This is my friend Summer. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Summer Neal. I am also from the Commonwealth of Virginia, and my pronouns are she, they.
Awesome. As a friend of Summer's, I've heard a lot about the struggle she's had with being part of the LGBTQ plus community in certain peer circles and certain religious circles, and the pressure that was put on her. I don't mean to make you nervous, but if you would like to, I think some people would resonate with it and could learn a little bit from how you came out of it. So take it away.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's what I'm here for. I hope that people will learn from my story. So, basically, I grew up in the Protestant church for my early childhood. My parents went when they were younger, and they always went, so it was just sort of the natural order of things. So we were there for a while, but then eventually we all sort of drifted away. And during that time, I had a lot of self exploration, and I did come to realize that I was gay. And then a little bit later in my life, a friend from school got me back into church. And that's when I really learned to not love myself for who I was. Now, before I get started with this whole story, I don't want people to take this as a stab towards their religion. If you are in your faith and you are strong in your faith, and that's what helps you get through the day and helps you learn to love the world and everything, that's totally fine. You do you. I'm just simply telling this story as a hope that it can reach someone who is in a similar situation as I was. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. So basically, at church, all the kids got super uncomfortable anytime anything was brought up about LGBTQ plus people. And the leaders would always push that marriage, specifically between a man and a woman. And I remember this one specific time, there was an openly gay girl from my school, and they came to our church group one day, and they didn't normally come. So after the group was over, my friend told her mom, who was the church leader, that this person was gay, just to avoid any sort of issues if they did continue to come to our services and everything. And her mom's face was just filled with so much disgust and pure hatred. And I will never forget the way she looked. And that's pretty much how everyone acted anytime anything was brought up about gay people at church. So what I basically tried to do was convince myself that I could just completely shut off my attraction to women and that I could just be attracted to men, because I thought that would work. Newsflash, it does not work. Don't try it. And so I basically was just like, I can be straight. I will convince myself that I am straight. That is what I'm going to do here. And I spent a long time just hating who I was and just trying to suppress my sexuality. But then once coronavirus started, we were forced to take a break from church simply because we weren't allowed to go. And through that time, I drifted away from the toxic community that I had discovered at church. And I learned to embrace my sexuality and embrace who I was. And I realized that it is okay to love who you love and just be who you are. So I hope that anyone hearing this is in a similar situation. I just hope you know how loved you are, and don't change yourself for anyone, because you are perfect just the way you are.
Exactly.
Your self-worth should not be determined based on who you love. Love is a beautiful thing, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. There's always someone you can talk to. I am here. If you want to talk, you can talk to Sean. There's always someone you can find to talk to. It's just so important that you stay true to who you are and that you learn to love yourself, because you shouldn't try to push away a pivotal part of yourself. So I hope that there's somebody out there who resonates with this, and I hope I'm helping at least one person by sharing my story. So just remember, everyone out there, I love you. There are always people that love you, despite what you may be told.
Thank you so much. Goosebumps. That was inspiring. I really like that. And I'm really glad you were able to come out of something as crappy as a pandemic and come out, knowing yourself a little bit better. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you everyone for watching.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Summer and Sean. As I said before, we wanted to share some pictures of Pride events. Now, behind the pictures, we have two smaller messages from Jackson Becker of Commonwealth, Virginia, and an anonymous message. So I hope you enjoy and really take something from this video as well as all of and I hope that you've also taken something from all of our other videos too.
So I just had one thing that I wanted to share, because it was something that someone once told me that really helped me personally. They said that you don't have to nail your identity right away, and you shouldn't feel like you have to get it right the first time. Since there's no permanent state of self that you are forever and will always be, your identity can shift and change over time. And so you should just call yourself the thing that makes you happiest. Happy Pride, everybody.
A message from Anonymous. The LGBTQIA+ community receives much criticism surrounding validity, those who use micro-labels and neopronouns especially. Why are we making up all these new words and fake pronouns? As someone just going from girl to girl except for when I'm only mostly girl, these attacks hold special weight to me. It hurts. I won't pretend it doesn't get to me sometimes. Am I seeking attention? Am I faking it? I'm hardly changing anything except complicating everything unnecessarily. When I see the beautiful demigirl flag or hear the right pronouns used, an undeniable surge of joy swells in my chest. It feels so right, so irrefutably me, that I know it's right. Yet, even with that, there is part of my identity I'm afraid to admit here, even when the media team is so kind to keep this so anonymous. This lingering fear is why we need pride. So, I'm taking the step and I'm listing everything I currently identify as, because I'm still discovering myself and that's okay too. I bear this, nervously but also proudly, in the hopes someone else can feel they are valid and not alone. I am gender doe, also known as gender fae, meaning I am a form of gender fluidity that stays feminine. I go from girl to paragirl to demigirl. When I am a paragirl or a demigirl, I am a girl, but also something more, a non-binary gender that I could, but don't really feel the need to name. I use she, her, hers, herself, and she, sin, sir, sirs, serself pronouns. I am technically trans, but as I stay 99% feminine, I have chosen to identify as isogender for my lack of transition. I am all of these things in secret. Anyone else out there questioning if they can be these things, I know there aren't many of us, but we're right here in CONA, and one day we will be proud in public. For now, stay strong. They think this is unnecessary and it is lesser known, but it brings us happiness, and everyone deserves that. I love you all. See you in debate.
Wow, those are such touching stories. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this story, and I hope the audience took some value in watching it too. It's finally time for our last segment, and that we over at the media table like to call the round table. Please welcome our past live stream hosts, Kaylin Crayus of Pennsylvania and Ann Duan of Washington State.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited to come back.
Hey, everyone.
All right, I guess we'll just get into it with our questions. So the first one, what has been your favorite part about being part of CONA Media?
I'll go first. My favorite part is getting to share not only behind the scenes stuff of CONA with everybody else that is taking part of the conference, but you also get to share other people's perspective on outside things that are happening in the world or in the country, I guess.
I would say my favorite part was just meeting all of you guys. You guys are all awesome and you're great at what you do. So I think just the people is what made it special.
I would agree. I think meeting everyone was also one of my favorite parts of CONA this year, especially since my state ledge has a very small press corps, and here I can find everyone who else loves media and does this, I guess. So that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would have to agree with all of you. Just like the people who are here, you can always kind of count on them to help you. So that was definitely a great thing. Right? Go ahead.
Our next question is, what is your favorite part of CONA this year?
Favorite part of CONA? Probably getting I guess it's not really part of media, but technically in the handbook in media delegates can debate in GA and plenaries. So I thought that was really cool to be able to do that. I got to ask in NDTQ in GA. So I definitely enjoyed that.
My favorite part of CONA this year was getting to figure out how to, I guess, make podcasts, because I thought they would be really hard, but it turned out that it was really easy. It was really simple and really fun to get to hear everyone else and interview as well too.
I would say my favorite part of Kona this year was like learning the behind the scenes stuff that like what goes into everything that gets produced because I didn't realize there was as much as there was.
My favorite part would be probably getting to know everybody. Like you see all these names and things from people from all over the country in group chats, but you never really get to know them. And I mean, I got to sit and hang out with a bunch of really nice people for media things and also getting to know people from my state that I hadn't quite met before.
All right, next question. This one's interesting. So guys, you get to co-host either like a podcast or a live stream, and you get to do it with one of the POs. Which one do you choose?
This is a hard one because I think all of them would do a really good job, but I think Jake would just make the whole live stream so much more entertaining and fun.
I would say Jake too, because I got him on the BuzzFeed quiz, but I haven't really met any of them. But I guess
Didn't you do a piece on all the POs? You probably know them the best.
I did interview them all, but I'm gonna have to say Nasim, not only because she was really nice to get to know, but she's also from Kentucky. But it was really nice I did get a chance to sit and talk to all of the POs, which was really nice. I got to learn a little bit about them.
Yeah, I think I would pick Angie. She just seems so sweet, and I think it would be a great interview.
Our next question is how has YAG influenced your view of big press as you work on media yourself?
I think what we hear a lot about like the media, like the mass media, is like that news sources today are really dishonest and unreliable, and they're pretty much just spreading propaganda or fake information. But then coming to YAG and then doing media here, I feel like since we're on such a small scale and since we're in like a program where everyone's nice and everyone's generally respectful, or this is part of our like motto and part of our mission, then we're we're doing a good job. Like we're really nice people, I think. And I don't know if this has really changed my views on like the big press, but I think it really shows me that there's good people out there who work on media as well. So we're not making propaganda for you. So you can rely on us.
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely changed my opinion on the like side of like all big media. It's not always fact-based and stuff because especially with writing stories and stuff, you have to have some sort of information behind it or it's just not going to make sense. You're not going to be able to write a piece on it. So while I do still believe that some of it is biased and things, I feel like there has to be some sort of fact behind it.
Yeah, I would have to say the biggest thing I learned is just like how hard the job is. I noticed it a lot last year when I did media, just like how much goes into planning and the behind the scenes and how much you guys just like aren't seeing of the process. I mean, it takes a lot of people, and I mean, media this year was a little short, so it was a lot harder than last year. We had a lot more people. Um, so definitely just like, I mean, there's a reason it's big press. You need that many people to get things done.
I was going to say the same thing where you realize how much work goes into putting out even one broadcast or live stream like we're doing now. It takes a lot of work just to put it together. So you get a new respect almost for media people and just like the media business in general.
All right. Right. So what's your favorite media project at CONA or your state conference, just in general? What's your favorite piece that you've worked on?
Go ahead.
My favorite project I've worked on was the Bill Spotlights, like little newsletter I put together because it was so interesting talking to all the different people about why they picked their proposals and like what they truly meant to them.
At my state conference, I did a 6-part podcast series of like 4 or 5 minute interviews with the presenting officers, and that was really nice. It was one of my favorite projects I've ever done because it was the first time I'd really gotten into media, and I just learned a lot about media itself and the POs that I got to work with.
Personally, my favorite project has to be making senior spotlights at my state conference because I don't know, there's just something really fun about like playing around in Canva and then adding like little cat icons and dog icons and little like things that represent the delegate's personality. I love doing that sort of stuff. But then in CONA, I think my favorite project I worked on this so far, this is a really hard question. I have to say either researching space colonization, which is really interesting, or moderating the discussion on polarization, which was also really interesting. And I actually watched a few YouTube videos after that because of all the things that everyone's talking about. And it's really, I guess, a new experience.
Yeah, I would say my favorite media project, and this is hard, so I've been doing media a while. I think it would have to be, it was my first piece of CONA this year. It was on like false information. I talked to a couple great people about their proposals and how fake information spreads, especially with the media. So I thought that was super interesting. And it's in the podcast, so you guys should go listen to it. All right. For, I guess, are any of you guys seniors?
I think you're the only one.
I think I am the only one. All right. So for seniors, this question came in. What will you miss the most? So I think what I will miss the most is kind of similar to like what I like about CONA, I guess. And that's really just the people and just everyone coming together and working on like one project, even if it's over the computer, still being able to work together. I think that's what I'll miss the most.
Then we want to ask that question also in the chat for any seniors that are watching to answer below. What will you miss the most?
While we wait for that, because I know it's a little bit behind, we will move on to a couple other questions. We'll do another question. What does a day in the life of a media person look like? Like you wake up and you start media. Go.
I wake up at, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I wake up at 5:59 specifically to do this because I'm in Pacific time. We start at 7 a.m. So I wake up, I do things. I don't know what I've been doing. Recently, I've been going walks. So yeah, I go on a walk until 7 and then I come back. And then we do our little meeting and then we break and then work all day with breaks, definitely. We don't just sit there and work, or at least I don't. And then we come back at my time, 3 p.m. Everyone else's 6 p.m. And then we do a final meeting and then the rest of the day is free unless with interviews or any finishing up other things. It's been pretty busy, but it's a fun busy, you know?
For me, the first thing I do when I get up is you have to look at the group me and see any messages that have gone out while you were asleep or when you had your phone put away, either the night before or like in the morning after you started getting ready. But that's the first thing you have to do is look at the group me because sometimes you'll get a outrageous number of notifications for different things. And then you get to work. You go to the media meetings and anything you have, but you just get to work. And then you're working and working and working until you go to sleep.
Yeah, I think I definitely have an interesting perspective on this because I started CONA in Pennsylvania and went on vacation halfway through. So I'm currently sitting in Hawaii at 9 a.m. and our first meeting of the morning is at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I was up at 4 in the morning doing these meetings. But then besides that, it's just the same. You just work and work until it's over.
Yeah, definitely. I wake up, obviously check my phone, so many messages. I mean, you guys have no clue how many group me's we are in, how many messages we get. I mean, half of our job you just do on your phone, and that's like answering messages, sending out messages. The other part, this year I was really big into editing. So that was a lot of stuff that I did on my to-do list, editing like podcasts. I edited a few videos and blogs, especially. So definitely spend a lot of time doing that. You have to like plan your days. Like I had one day, I was like, all right, I'm just going to film today. Today, I'm going to just do interviews. And then the next day I was like, all right, today I'm just going to edit. And you basically do that until I think I've done CONA up until maybe 11:30, still in meetings. And that's on Eastern time. So I couldn't imagine other people.
And so, did everyone answer? So the responses that some of the seniors in the chat are giving, Jackson says, I'll miss the people, no question, y'all are the best.
Okay. Reed says, meeting other delegates, definitely.
Hannah, she's going to miss her delegation meetings.
That's the best. All right, see if we have any others. I think that's it for that. Do you guys think we can do one more question? Yeah? All right. Do you have a favorite proposal that you have heard, and what is it?
I've heard a lot about some ostrich proposal, and I'm gonna have to look into it after this stream because it sounds really interesting.
I've heard, I had like 4 devices open trying to watch all 6 sessions of GA at once. So I could see anyone from my delegation that was talking in them. So I heard so many proposals that they all started to like flow together. But the ostrich one was very interesting. I had that one for a while. And someone also did one on having employers give people that are fired unemployment information, which I thought was also very interesting.
I think my favorite proposal, it was either the second or third proposal of plenary today, and it was on like it was the sexual abuse case of whether like priests, clergy members should have to report sexual abuse cases if they're said in like confession. And for me personally, I'm Catholic, so it was a very interesting case or an interesting proposal. So I definitely that's the most interesting one to me.
Yeah, I was listening to that one too in plenary, and I think that was also one of the most interesting ones. Other than that, I don't think I can decide which one is like a best proposal. I think you all did so good, and the debate was very, very good. I don't know how you guys get to that level, but it was very elite. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone and good job.
All right, and this concludes our roundtable segment. Again, thank you, Anne and Kaylin, for joining us. It is always a pleasure to talk to you all. Before we conclude our last live stream, we wanted to give you all one last announcement, which is that the awards ceremony will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and will go until 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I hope to see you all there. As far as where to find all of media's latest work, you can check out our blog, which can be found under the media tab of Wild Apricot. Also in this place is a link where you can find our latest podcast. You can listen to that on Anchor or Spotify. Finally, our first magazine should be out very soon after CONA ends, so watch on social media for that news on where to find it when it does drop. Lindsay, do we have anything else?
There's just one more thing. Once CONA is all over and you start to fall into a bit of CONA depression, to put it in the best terms, go back to our CONA blog and read our articles. Listen to all of our podcasts from CONA that you may have missed on Anchor or Spotify, and check out our magazine when it comes out. Just because debate may be over for this year doesn't mean the CONA memories have to end, so check out all of our hard work. And with that, I will conclude our last live stream of CONA 2021. Thank you to everyone who contributed and member delegates to keep raising those voices.
See you next year.